In this video, we're going to continue on with our point of sale system, and this is part 16. So what we're going to do now is basically when we have this here, we have these buttons here, but what we need to do is we need to create a function for this button so they will start to work nicely where we can increase the number here, but eventually as well, this number as we increase it here should also increase here eventually. So let's start and work on how to do this. So if we scroll down here, what we're going to do is we're going back here in the, let's see, in the JavaScript section. And basically we had here the item related to the decrement and increment button, which is this part here. And what we want to do now is, when we select on this, you can see here if we open up our developer tab and select this, you can see there's still no function or on-click button function built in here. And that's what we're going to do right now. To do this, we're going to grab a certain chunk of code here above. Let's search for that, which is this specific one here. We're going to grab this. What we will be doing here is eventually give this a specific attribute and of course a individual class name here. So I'm going to copy this. We go down here. And what we want to do is the following. We're going to paste it in here, but this here will be matched with the decrement button, and then we have another one as well for the increment button. And let's get this one as well. Alright, so what we really want to do is we want to input here in the decrement button, we want to set a new attribute which is on click, and this has a function here, and you can see here we have these parameters here. This one here, we probably won't need these, so we're going to remove this. Except for this here, this is essential because we want to pinpoint the specific button we click on. That's why it is this. But here, I would not say here this is a delete item. Well, let's say here decrement button. We can call this a maybe decrement item. That will be a specific function. And here, we have an increment item. Basically, this will be pinpointing on this, changing this here. So now we have this here. This is now set. So if I save this now and refresh, we should see that this is now a class, even though the class doesn't work at all, but you can see it starts to recognize the button option here. So we have this here, we have the item, alright, and then if you have on the other one here, we have the decrement item. Nice. So what we're going to do now is going to start working on this here, or this specific item, that when we press on the, or when we click on plus, this should increase. This value here is also the array value of this specific item here. So we have to do a few things and then we probably have to figure out how we're going to combine them nicely together. First of all, what I want to do is I want to grab this decrement item. I'm going to put in here a new function. And this function here is the decrement item. And then we also have the increment item. So right now we have these two, and then we say this is increment. When we click on this, eventually what we want to do here is basically that this value, when we click on this specific item, it will pinpoint that. I'm not sure if we really need this one, so I'm going to remove it for now. Probably we don't need this. We just need to say here +1 or -1. And if I look at it, maybe we can even make one single function, put in both items, because basically we could do here 1 and the other one would be -1, or here here would be 1 and this -1. But I will look at it later on. So what we want to do here first is we have the decrement item here. And what I will say here, decrement item, if it's on click, I need to, or let's go do an increment item first because that's the most important one here. So we have this here. This value, I need to figure out what is exactly this specific value. And we can see here the item span, and probably we might need to give this an ID. But we'll see about that. So what I'm going to do here, well, we cannot give this an ID, of course. And the reason why we cannot give this an ID is because if we would select another one, it would duplicate the exact ID. Here, we might have to put in a value. I realize. And what I mean by that is there should be a. So what we had to do here is to make sure that when we have this plus here, basically we needed an I. That was what I was trying to say. But alright, so what we're going to do here is to figure out now. We have this text node here, we need an ID here or something specific. This will be, let's see here, probably need an I value here as well. Let's see if we have an I value at this moment. We have here push I. Alright, so I'm going to copy this and I'm just going to add up a class here. And then we can just say here the following. I'm going to say here we're going to add up another specific class name. And this class name would be a value. It could be basically an ID as well. So here I would just say here item, I guess. And then we just put in here an I. So we say here plus, let's say item. I'll just keep it an item for now. This is a specific class, so if I save this now and refresh, click on that, open up developer tab, check if this has a specific item, and you can see here the class is item 0. Alright. Item 0 would indicate the following here. And now we can pinpoint this specific item, and then we have to see how will we get this matched. Because we have here this part that needs to be matched, so I have to just check how I'm going to match this. Now this decrement here, that's under this. And probably this, well, what we're going to do here is let's start to do at least one thing here. Constant doc, this would be the item span. So I'll just give this the constant of item span, and that is basically here the document dot query selector, and this will be the query selector. So what are we going to really search for here? Dot item. Well, I will just put in here 0 for now, and later on I have to figure out how we can do this. So that one query selector for class item 0, and then what I want to do eventually here, I want to say here dot inner text equals inner text. Alright, so what we want to do is basically this plus 1. So what we need to do here is probably to say here parse, or was it int parse, to make sure that this is a value. I want to parse the int. I'm not sure if I'm doing this correctly. Let me just quickly check. Alright, so apparently it was parse int. Alright, that's the one we need. So basically what I want to do here then is when I click on this, I want to add +1. So if I save this now and click, you can see here now this works. Of course this one doesn't work yet, but if we do this, it still pinpoints a specific one here. So we have to figure out this specific item, but we can, and as I realize here, we have the decrement as well, and I realize that this could be maybe easier. Let's go and simplify this for now. I'll just say here -1, and here I do +1, and I'll just say here this, let's say here increment or decrement item. Let's change this to this. Alright, so we have these same now, and then I expect if we do this, we have that increment or decrement item. So this should be the value, and then here we can just say value. Let's see if this works. And this one can be commented out. So if I save this now, basically the plus and minus should work. Alright, and the minus, there you are. So these are working, but of course it doesn't yet correlate with everything else. And we have here as well, the moment we hit 0, we should remove this, and it should basically be similar to this. So let's do that one first, and after we have to really check how we can do this one here, because I have to figure out that as well. So what we're going to do here is the next thing. We create an if statement here. Say if parse inner text. Right. Oh, now I need to copy this. So if this equals strict 0, in that case, I want to launch or trigger this specific button here. So let's see. So what is this specific class or function? Sorry, not class, but it's the function. I want to trigger the function here, and you can see here it says here, I realize it, delete item this. Alright, we're going to trigger that, and then of course we need to figure out how do we delete that, because we cannot connect them without understanding where we are clicking on here. So let me double check how we did this. If I have a few more, does this have a other value as well? Let's look in here. You can see here, I realize that this has a button. The onClick here works with a certain button here, and probably that might be our solution. So what we're going to do, well, let's see first the specific function here, delete item. OnClick delete item, alright, and delete item order ID button. So we need that one here. So you have this. I'm going to copy just this specific function. Then afterwards we just have to check what we will do. So we have here the order ID, and this is the button here. So this should be this value, and this would be the order ID. The order ID is probably we need to have here a specific item that would indicate as well the order ID, which would be the I value. That will be the order ID as well. So the order ID, I'm going to put them together. So the reason why I'm doing this is exactly the same to match the items here. So what we did here with the order ID, I need to grab it as well. So we have this always correlated. So we say here, and let's grab the code here above, delete item this, copy. We're going to put in this here and put that one in there. And then we say here the order ID, and then eventually this order ID should also be located here. And this specific button here, I am not sure yet. So let's save this for now, and I just want to check what's going on now. If I click on this, do plus, alright, it's fine. And of course that doesn't work, so let me double check what's going on, or it doesn't trigger at all. So let's look here what we need to do then. I have to figure out here specifically the delete of this, and then I have to check how can we delete this specific item, or maybe we don't have to connect them here directly, but what we could do is, let's see, how did I do this one here? It copies a lot of the items we have here. Order array. And then we have here enable checkout button. So you can see we have a lot of items here connected as well. So I'm going to pause the video and just going to check how we can do this quickly. Alright, so I figured out a few items that we need to probably adjust. So I have here what we call equal strict. This is not allowed to do, or this is not recommended. And the reason why is because this here is inner text. And if it's equal strict, of course you get an issue. Why? Because by default, this is considered a text, and I'm expecting what we call a number value or an integer, like this here, parse int. Or we need to parse int this, or we remove the equal sign here. So if we do this, we can save this and refresh, and now you will see here, if we do this, this starts to communicate together. So if I try again here, if I plus, you can see here nothing will happen until I do here on the minus, and then it understands that it is equal to 0. So we have one thing here. Of course, this should then also disappear. This here is good, but I have a big problem here because I guess that we have here this value, and that creates an issue because we're never clicking this specific button. So it doesn't understand where are we going to click on, or where did we click on it, cannot find the correlation with that. So this specific function here, I'm afraid we cannot use it, and I have a way to do it, but it's probably not the official way or recommended way, but it's probably the easiest way to do is just to copy the entire code here and then pinpoint the specific item we want to remove. Because the reason why this is now not working, or the code here, because remember we have the different structure here, and now we're clicking on very different buttons, so it will not be or it cannot understand where exactly we're clicking on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look for the delete item. I'm just going to use this here in the find. Alright, and I'm going to copy this entire code here from beginning to end, except for these items or these closing parentheses. And the reason why, or sorry, curly braces. The reason why I'm not going to use this is because I need to have this, or I'm using a lot of this. So let me say the code here that we copy will be placed within our item here, because here we wanted to duplicate the delete item function. Since this is not working, I'm just going to copy and paste the entire function here. Let's see if this will create a problem, because here we have the constant value which is exactly the same, but luckily we are in a block scope, so this should not be a problem, but we can double check this. So let's save the file, refresh, click here, and if I go now minus, alright, it works. Of course, it doesn't yet fully function, and I think we probably get some errors here. The button is not defined. Fair enough. And that is on increment item. Increment item, that is number 394. So 394 would be this specific item here. We have the button here. Where is this button related with? Let's look here in the function. Remove child of button. So we have here, remember we did here the parent element. Parent element here, we might need it as well. I need to figure out what is this button. And this button here, that's probably that specific item. So if I go back here, we call it here the order ID. And then we have the value. Alright. What we can do here is based on this constant here, that we can say here, and then we go up wherever we need to go up. Meaning, if we look here in the span, if we go one to the parent element, we have here this span class, and then if we go another parent element up, it will be the list item. And this is the tag, or the anchor tag, or not the anchor tag, sorry, the selector that we want to remove. So let's go back here. We have this query selector. So we already got this one. So we can copy this. I'm going to search here for button. I click on the button. I can just put in this here. Well, I'll probably need to have only this item here. We could even do this here, what it would be. But if I save this, I suspect we should have a very nicely working item. So we go here. Alright, it doesn't work. That's interesting. So let's see what's going on. Fail to execute remove child on node. The node to be removed is not the child of this node. That is correct. So what we need to do here now is remove the child of order item. Let's see. Item span. Is item span not the... It's not the child, but it's the grandchild. Because there's like two parents on top. So let's see what we can do here. So we have this button here. If we click on one of these buttons, and then eventually we will target this specific span class. And this class, we should go one up, and then another one up. Alright, so we have to see here, remove child. What could we do? We have that one. Let's copy this and just look here at the console log. Save this here first, refresh, select that, and then press here delete. Alright, or remove that. And then down section, remove child node 369. So 369, this is the real big problem here, so I have to really figure out this one. So I'll pause the video again. So after looking, I realized the answer was apparently very obvious the moment I was starting to use the console log here. I was ignoring this, but this is a very good tool. Alright, so let me explain here what was the issue. The issue was so obvious. If you look at this here, we have the console log. This is the span, and then we have here the UL. Apparently this span, the parent, is just one up here, because we can see here we're going up 2 levels, parent element, parent element. So this is basically the grandparent. And for some reason the grandparent, well, or obviously the grandparent is the UL, although I was expecting the list item to be. But what we really want to delete was the list item. So if I go here and do this again, and then you can just delete this as well, you will see that this is just the solution. Refresh, select that, then we press here, and there you are. So what happened is, eventually you can see here, this one just selects the list item, and that's the one we need. So we have this now done nicely. And that was a quite easy fix without realizing that it was easy. So now we have this. So if we click on here, we're not yet done because we have a few items here. If I do this, you can see here, it does not work here. And the reason why it doesn't work here is, of course, we're missing a certain item here. So let's go up here, let's fix this. Since we have now what we call the value here, this would probably be just a very quick fix. The saying val here. So let's double check if that's correct. So if I click on this and click on that, minus, minus. Alright, that doesn't work. So let's see what is the issue here. Can I read property of inner text of null? Oh, of course. So what is the reason why? Remember, the I was the first one and not the second one. So this what I did here doesn't make any sense at all. I need to have this one here. And once I have this, oh, this one may maintain value, of course, but this one I need to change. So this is here. So just to make sure you understand it, that's this one here. So if I save this, refresh. Now, if I do this, it removes and removes. Alright, so now I have feeling that we are correct, but just double check here. Alright, I'm going to remove pizza 3, so pizza 3 should be removed. There you are, pizza 3 has been removed. If I click here on pizza 1, alright, alright. Alright, so we have this part now. We have still a lot of work to do because you can see if I double click here, it should now, instead of adding a new item, we need to add up here a extra item. So that requires a certain way of thinking as well that I have to consider as well. So we have to see that one. However, it doesn't matter for now. Right now I'm happy that we are close to a certain part. And here now basically is the plus sign. So how are we going to create the plus sign where we're going to add up the item where it understands this here? So we have to figure out how we build our array here, because I assume that here, my array here, the total items was here by counting the amount or the array length. And that's not allowed anymore. We cannot use the array length. I guess that will be a good video for the next one. It will be the next video because it's become quite intense. I need to do some research as well, how we can do it the best. So next video, we will cover the plus sign.